thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I
Thanks.
really appreciate it. Was very interested to hear about your experience in the public sector. Certainly, many years ago, you were working at a very high level in the U.S. government, and that would have exposed you to quite a lot of interesting challenges and issues. You now have moved into a role with Akamai in the private sector, which I suspect has built on your experience there. Tell us a bit about the intervening years and how you've found the threat profiles and the challenges that you're facing changing in that time.
So it's interesting. I think we all kind of tune the mitigations to the threat that we think that we're going to be exposed to. You know, mine at that time was nation state. That was our specific focus area, was to make sure that we could mitigate threats from a nation state level, if you will. What's interesting now, and I think what's changed over the last 9 or 10 years, is from a commercial perspective, or from a public sector perspective, or from an internet perspective. You really can't tune that anymore, right? So you used to be able to say, hey, I'm likely going to get it from script kiddies, or I'm going to wind up getting approached from organized crime or nation state. And now it's kind of a mix. So the tools are being mixed. The tools you'll see with different groups, even with the anonymouses of the world, or the hacktivists of the world, they're all kind of intermingled. So you have to be at least familiar with all of the mitigations and be sensitive to all of the different groups that would come after your infrastructure. Because they'll all come after you, but maybe for a different reason.
Well, there certainly has been a lot more effort to try and put a name to the things that they're doing recently. You mentioned Anonymous, certainly was one of the very high-profile ones. It's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? Because this stuff used to be all secret squirrel business that was conducted in the shadows.
So there is no threat. One of the other changes that we've seen in the last 10 years, there's no threshold to entry anymore. So you used to be able to have to navigate the seedy underbelly of the internet and have some technical expertise to get your tools and your training and that. Now, my 15-year-old daughter can get online, download a tool onto her mobile device, and start attacking infrastructure. Comes with help desk support. Comes with they'll tune the tools. Yes, there's no threshold to entry.
Whatever happened to ballet classes.
Right.
Do you think that the focus on security is going to have to change as we go forward? Certainly the threats that we're seeing have been changing. Have we got the right structures in place to manage those sorts of threats?
So I think every security officer has more threats than he has resources or time to mitigate. I'm not sure that's ever going to change. It's always a prioritization. It's always a risk assessment. It's a tough job, and the threat continues to advance and change. It's very professionalized now. They're moving to the cloud. They're leveraging cloud resources, just like we are, and it's constantly evolving. I think the advantage that you have with leveraging security in the cloud is that you have dedicated teams that are just doing that, right? They're just looking at the threat. Within the company, within Akamai, we have hundreds of people that just focus on the threat. We have those people are mitigating attacks every day, 10, 15 attacks every day. It's what they do. Now, if you take that down to an individual organization or an enterprise, they may mitigate an attack a year. They may get attacked. They may or may not. That's a skill set, right? Mitigating attacks is a skill set. When you're doing it all the time, you're going to get much better at it. And we do a lot of training. We invest in an extraordinary amount to train that team up and make sure that they are an augmented personnel, right? It's augmented human capability. We give them the tools to be able to make decisions very quickly.
And in this case, the tool is the skill, is that finely trained person, that capability to support the operations in that way. How do you find that the market for security skills is progressing? Certainly it has become much more competitive over the years. And how was it when you were in that role?
So it was competitive then as well. I don't think we are not as nations. I know both Australia and the US have the same challenge. We are not generating enough security personnel into the workforce to the level that we need, right? Our needs are much greater than our capacity to generate that skill set. So it's going to be a competitive environment, right? It's going to be a challenge.
Do you get a sense that governments may be able to get a bit of primacy because of their size and their resources in getting those?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. It was for me at that time as well. It was not so much from if you're going to try to bring those young kids in, those young minds, young strong minds into your organization. They have to believe that they're coming to a high end. Have the tools, it's got to be an interesting job. I mean, that's how you keep technical people, right? You keep them interested in the job, you give them more responsibility, and you have to pay them, right? So the pay is a part of that, but the interest in the high tech and the capability. Now, that's always been a challenge for government, right? Because you're going to come to me and I'm going to say, ooh, you can't use that device, right? Let's get this thing out of this box that I've had for years and I'm going to give you, and you can use this thing. That's not always attractive to the younger generation that's coming out of school now, that's looking to use the latest and greatest technologies.
It's definitely a challenge I think everybody is facing.
It is.
As you look forward and knowing where you've been and the sorts of things you've been engaged with, and obviously looking, as you do at Akamai, at what's going on right now and what's coming down the track, what advice would you give to other people in CIO roles across the public sector, whether they're very high up or managing a particular focus? What do you think we really can do better?
So I'm not sure I'm qualified to give advice to CIOs. If I were to if I were to say a couple of things, and you can't take your presence off the internet anymore. It's not CISOs and security personnel used to sow fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You don't need to do that anymore. You can't pick up the paper without seeing another issue that was a cyber-related issue or data loss, or be impacted yourself, or get a note from one of the retailers that they lost your credit card, and now you've got to redo credit cards. It's just happening all the time. I think that it's an understood challenge now. It's the environment that we're going to have to work in, right? So you don't have the opportunity to just say, hey, I'm going to stay home, right? You have to be able to go out there and operate if you're going to stay in business. What I have seen done very successfully is the prioritization of different applications. Right? So it goes back to don't protect your toothbrushes like diamonds, right? So you won't lose as many toothbrushes, but you may lose more diamonds. So you got to figure out which ones are your critical applications and protect them to the level of the criticality of that application. And some of them are customer facing, or internet facing, let's say. Internet facing, where the public comes and gets those applications. Those are very suited for cloud infrastructure, because you don't want it in the same DMZ where you keep your diamonds, right? Where you keep your much more critical applications. You don't want the public coming in there and mashing about if you can all afford it. So look at them from different strategies for those different types of applications.
Fantastic. Fran Trentley, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, my
really
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.